Hello, friends. We are here today in John chapter 4. So what's going on in this chapter, mostly it's talking about the Samaritan woman at the well. You may have heard this story before. But, if you've heard it before, like all these stories, you can listen to them again. You might find something that you never noticed before. I know I did. So in this story, it's kind of interesting. The people, the Jewish people, there was two different areas. There was the north and the south, and they were divided by Samaria, kind of in the middle. And what they would often do is they'd usually go way around. They would go across the Jordan, and they'd take the long way around, just because the Samaritans were so hated, and they were considered so dirty that they didn't even want to step foot in their area. So Jesus decides, okay, I'm going to leave the southern area, and I'm going to go to the north, where he's from. Now, this is kind of interesting why he went in the first place. It said that he was basically gaining a lot of popularity in the south, and he was just kind of becoming a rising star a little too fast. And so he was like, well, I think it might be time for me to go somewhere else before this kind of catches on too much. I think I should spread God's word, spread the gospel around a little bit more. So he heads back to the north, and he goes through Samaria. Some may say, why did he go through Samaria? What was the purpose? Was it purely because that was the fastest way? Could have been. I like to think that the reason he went to Samaria was because he needed to talk to a woman at a well. So he goes to this well. He's sitting there. It's the middle of the day. It says it's about noon. And there's a woman coming to the well in the middle of the day. Now, this is kind of a strange thing. People don't come to the well in the middle of the day, especially this well. This well is far off from the town. I actually heard a different pastor say that there is a well that's within the city. And so the fact that she's even coming out to this well is surprising in itself. But she's coming out in the middle of the day. So the idea here is that this woman is kind of an outcast. She's not wanting to be seen by other people. And she's probably ostracized from the community. And here's this man. Now, just think of the separation between these two. Now, here's Jesus, King of the Jews, the Messiah. He's God. He's perfect in every way. And here's a woman from the lowest part that she could be. She is so hated by the Jews that they will walk around her city. Not only that, she is a woman. But not only that, she is a woman that has questionable character. We'll find that out later. But Jesus starts talking to her, and he says, "Could you give me some water?" This must be so surprising for her. It would be kind of like if you're walking around, and then all of a sudden, someone who normally wouldn't talk to you, like a famous person, let's say like a movie star, or even a well-known political leader or something like that, comes up to you and says, hey, could you give me some water? It would be a little jarring, like you're talking to me? How can you even talk to me? Don't you have servants? Don't you have people that are going to get you water for you? So I think she's a little amused by the whole thing. How can this be that you're talking to me? Because you're a Jew, and Jews don't associate with Samaritans. And Jesus said, if you know who is talking to you, you would ask him for living water, and he would give it to you. Now this is the point of the passage that I think that I missed. When he is talking about water here, it's it's interesting because in the last chapter, Jesus was telling you that you need to be born again. And they're like, what kind of birth are you talking about? Can you enter into your mother's womb again? And here, this woman is saying something kind of similar. He's like, I would give you living water. I would give you water of the Spirit. And I would give it to you. And so she's like, well, give me this water. In the same way that he was like, Nicodemus in the previous chapter was like, how can you go into your mother's womb again? She's saying, give me this water so I don't have to come back to this well. So in the previous chapter, he's telling you how to be born. And in this chapter, he's basically saying, how do you survive? If you are born of the Spirit, what does your spirit eat? What does it drink? How do you sustain your spirit? How do you grow your spirit? How do you make your spirit happy? How do you cleanse it? So that's what Jesus is talking about in this chapter. So he comes to this woman and he says, I would give you this water, and it would be like a well coming up within you, and it would be there forever. Now, water is for cleansing. It's refreshing on your body. It cleans your body. But even when you put it in you, it cleanses the inside of you as well. So we need water to live in so many ways, but we also love it. So she asks, how do I get this water? And he says, well, why don't you go and get your husband? He knows very well that she currently is not married, and that she has had 5 husbands. And, I've heard it said that she may have even been a prostitute. So he's like, hey, why don't you go and get your husband? And she's like, I have no husband. And he's like, you're right in saying that you don't have a husband. Truth is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you currently have is not your husband. And she's like, I can see that you're a prophet. I want to highlight this part because it's really interesting. She starts talking about politics. And I've heard some people say that she is basically trying to change the subject. Like, I don't want to talk about my sin. Let's talk about this thing, this way to debate. I don't think that was it. I think that she really wanted to know. I think she wanted to know, like, here's a person of God. Can you tell me, are they right or are we right? Are we supposed to worship at the temple or are we supposed to worship at the mountain? And Jesus answers her question. He answers it perfectly. He says, there's a day coming where we're not going to worship at the mountain or the temple. That we're going to worship, in our spirit. We're going to worship God directly, where we don't need to go anywhere. We're going to worship God with this Spirit. And she instantly says, I know that the Messiah is coming. And this is why I think it's so amazing. For us, if you're talking to people in our culture, they don't realize that Jesus was not just a person that came about and he was a good teacher and so we all jumped on the bandwagon. It was prophesied that Jesus would come, not just once, but throughout the entire Old Testament, and even more places than that. Even you have the Magi in the beginning of Matthew, and Jesus was prophesied even to them, outside of the Bible. So it was well understood by everyone, not just the Jews, but the Samaritans, and not just the Samaritans, but by the Magi from far away, from everybody. Everybody had this idea, and they knew that someday this Messiah would be coming. And she says, I know this Messiah is coming. And he says, I'm the Messiah. And so she goes into the village and she tells everybody, and then his disciples come and they said, all right, we came back with the food. And he's like, I have food that you guys don't know of. So it kind of goes along with what's being said so far. That this is how you eat and this is how you drink. And it's interesting that after she goes into the village and tells everybody, she is the first missionary. She's the first minister of the gospel to the people of Samaria. And he spends 2 days And it said that the people there in Samaria believed. Interesting that later on in this chapter, he goes back to his hometown, and they did not, except for one official of the area who Jesus was able to save his son. But this chapter is very much about, like, how does your spirit eat? How do you feed it? How do you grow it? So this is how you grow it. You go and you spread the gospel. You go and you be the light. It says all over this book that Jesus is the light that shines in the darkness. You need to go around into the darkness and you need to shine his light so that the people can be like a ripe harvest. That is how your spirit is filled, by doing God's work, by in the Spirit doing what he has made you and led you to do. So that is John chapter 4. Have a great day.